Well, to make some sense out of that chaos, I'm joined in the studio now by John Ofe-Ansah, who's the publisher of Africa Briefing. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. What do you make of that chaos around Zuma's address?
Well, I see it as a very, very healthy, development. I mean, the people are exercising their democratic rights. Here's a president who's falling foul of the Constitution. I mean, who's been tainted by so many scandals. And some members of the opposition believe that he had sort of forfeited his rights, to hold that position, right, and therefore address them. So I think they are exercising their democratic, their constitutional rights in resisting his address in the House of Parliament.
Well, this is actually supposed to be a State of the Union address, but it sounds like it's a State of the Zuma address.
Exactly. In other words, they are asking him to quit, period. That is what, that is the essence of the protest going on in the parliament.
But isn't there, I mean, this is the parliament of a country, as you said, a democratic country. Isn't there a more democratic way of asking for him to leave office?
Well, this issue, what they're doing now actually is highlighting, is bringing to the fore to South Africans, right, and the wider world, what is, how tainted the president has been. Right, but I believe, having said all this, I think he must be allowed to deliver his very last State of the Nation address.
Yes, absolutely. But of course, beyond the what's going on inside Parliament there, how much of a tense showdown has this whole event been? I mean, with 400 troops said to be on the streets as part of security, the likes of the EFF, of course, disrupting things and insisting that Mr. Zuma violated his oath of office and should not be addressing the House.
Yeah, to me, I mean, deploying 400, soldiers, outside of the president was rather uncalled for. That is what the police are there to do, to keep law and order. So, I mean, bringing in 400 soldiers was rather maybe sort of trying to aggravate the whole situation.
We're talking about aggravation. I mean, Julius Malema has obviously been speaking quite considerably and volubly during this whole sort of event taking place in Parliament. Let's hear a bit of what he had to say at the outset.
This country is going to...
It's a man who
Are you
is
on a point of
incorrigible.
order?
An incorrigible man, rotten to the core. And that has been found by the Constitutional Court. And this story that
Honorable Malema.
voted majority to keep him, it doesn't make him
Honorable
a
Malema, that
president.
is not a point of order.
But listen to me.
A rather fiery Julius Malema there. And of course, as we were discussing, John, just a minute ago, troops out on the streets, quite unusual for the opening of South African Parliament. And that deployment seen by the likes of Julius Malema as a scare tactic aimed at those planning to disrupt this speech and planning to protest against it.
Well, those planning to disrupt the speech are doing it anyway inside the chambers of the House. So putting 400 soldiers outside, wouldn't amount to much anyway.
Now, if Jacob Zuma gets around to speaking in the end, which hopefully he will, what are some of the fundamental issues that we're expecting him to address? I expect slow economic growth, crime, possibly corruption in government.
Yep, the economy actually is virtually on its knees. I mean, there was little growth over the past year. I mean, because of less demand from South Africa's bigger trading partners. I mean, falling commodity prices.
Well, you just hold on a second. Let's just go to this live. This is coming to fisticuffs. It looks like Julius Malema's EFF party are attacking some of the people in the white shirts. I would assume they're probably sort of guards and so on inside the parliament there. And I think what they're trying to do is to hustle the EFF out of parliament, because clearly they have been disruptive, even though, John, you seem to think that it was an exercise of their democratic right to interrupt the president's State of the Nation address. But clearly the guards inside parliament are trying to forcibly evict them out of parliament in order to allow Mr. Jacob Zuma to speak. Extraordinary scenes, if you ask me.
Most extraordinary. I mean, it reminds me of a similar scene in the Ukrainian parliament not long ago, and the Greek parliament too. It's most extraordinary.
But this has always been, I mean, this is almost a sort of trademark of the economic freedom fighters, Julius Malema's party. They always make it a habit to disrupt a State of the Union address. But I'm not quite sure that I've seen something quite as disruptive as this. I mean, this is essentially a physical fight taking place inside Parliament.
Yes, it is, yes. And I think they were hell-bent, I think, this time. I mean, knowing that it will be Zuma's last Sona, State of the Nation address, I think they were hell-bent on throwing the spanner into his works.
Right.
So I think it shouldn't, much as I agree now.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that perhaps to sanity is perhaps the wrong word, if you ask me, because they had to be physically evicted. I mean, the Speaker of the Parliament, Baleka Mbete, ordered the ejection of opposition leader Julius Malema from Parliament. After Julius Malema had roused all his supporters and said they were not going to be addressed by, quote, a criminal. And they tried everything they could to prevent Jacob Zuma from delivering that speech.
Yeah, I believe both the president and the parliamentary speaker were expecting, this sort of action from Malema and the Economic Freedom Fighters Party. So I believe, though they were prepared for such like you tell me, a rancorous, action, they maybe try to give them some leeway, in expressing their democratic or exercising their democratic constitutional rights. But I believe they overstepped their mark a little bit, so they had to be fiscally evicted.
Yeah,
from the
well,
chamber.
I mean, in terms of overstepping their mark, here are a few descriptions of Zuma by MPs there, and these are all in quotes. They called him a constitutional delinquent. They said he was a scoundrel, he was an incorrigible criminal, and he was rotten to the core. And I think it was after that the South Africa's Parliament Speaker ordered security officials to eject all the MPs from the economic freedom fighters, of course, led by Julius Malema there. But what did you make about the speech itself? I mean, when he finally got around to speaking, he didn't address that controversial issue of land redistribution, at least up till when we came out from his address. And he touched very sort of marginally on things like, slow economic growth. He didn't talk about crime and corruption, so a bit of a disappointment there.
Well, he could not avoid the slow economic growth. That was something he couldn't avoid. Because again,
I mean, he couldn't avoid that.
No, he couldn't avoid that. But the speech is still in progress, so maybe he might, come to the issue of crime and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, he needs to tackle the issue of labor
disputes
and employer relationships, because the spate of strikes over the past few years in South Africa is having a crippling effect on the economy. I think it's part of the reasons why the economy is registering such a low growth rate. So I think he needs to address the labor employer relations.
Well, obviously, this is the last time he's going to have the chance to deliver a State of the Union address, and arguably he's missed the opportunity to do that, certainly up to the point that we were listening to him there. But John Othey-Ansah, I want to say thank you very much indeed for sticking with us through this. John Othey-Ansah, publisher of Africa Briefing, and you've been watching Jacob Zuma giving his last speech as the ANC president live from the South African Parliament in Cape Town. You've been watching the Arise News Hour with me, Charles Anyagolu. Keep it here on Arise News from the entire team here in London. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.